Hello, everyone. Welcome to our panel about what to expect from 2023. We have a very fast year. This year was extremely fast for us, and we have very valuable professionals to discuss about expectations. And we have Ashish from SocialPeta as Sales and Director of Sales and Business Development, and Gökberk from adjoe as Account Manager, Ali from Gnarly Game Studios as Game Designer, and we have me, Ozhan, as Head of Gaming from Mod Studio. And let's learn about what your companies do, what you do, guys, starting with Ashish, please.
Sure. Thank you, Azam. Thank you for the introduction. And, welcome to panelists and our attendees, a very warm welcome. My name is Ashish, as Ozan has already told you. I work as the Director of Sales and Business Development at SocialPeta. SocialPeta was, launched in 2015, and since then we have been going up and up, and hopefully to, go up, in the future as well. 2015, we really was successful in the domestic market where it was launched. And back in 2019, we thought, we should probably go international. So currently at the moment, we have clients all across the globe, such as North America, South America, in fact, some in Turkey as well, in India, Vietnam. And India, we actually launched back in March 2022. And, since I joined, we've been trying to do, develop business over here, doing a lot of events, joining these, really good webinars where we can, product our, show our product. What we really focus on since our inception in 2015, our focus was really, the USP, I would say, was the ad creative part. Now we can all understand that from the modern history that ad creatives are the most important thing for you to sell your product, be it Pepsi versus Coke, and you could see Mercedes versus BMW and everything. So yeah, so we really paid attention to it, and we can understand gaming industry heavily relies on their ad creative part. So we are here to serve you, the game industry, the developers and publishers. That's about me. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Gökberk, could you please continue?
Yeah, so my name is Gökberk Yenitepe. I'm working as an account manager at adjoe. Adjoe is a company, a tech company based in Hamburg, Germany, where our headquarters are here, and everyone from adjoe is working in the same place. We're working together with only one office. What we are doing is, what adjoe does is, adjoe is an ad network which provides inventory to mainly gaming publishers across the globe in pretty much all geos, with our proprietary ad format called Playtime, which is a rewarded ad unit that rewards the users that come to the platform by the time they spend in the games that they download. So this is what we're pretty much doing. We have like around 60 people in the whole team, and we are a team that always looks forward and tries to build disruptive products in the industry and come up with like great ideas and develop them. So it's really a super cool place to work in, and I'm very happy to join the conversation. And thanks for the introduction as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Ali?
Hi everyone again. I'm Muhammed Ali. I'm working at Gnarly Game Studios as a game designer. As Gnarly Game Studios, we got our first investment 2 years ago, and we actually start with multiplayer mid-core games, but right now we are working with multiple publishers and developing hybrid casual games.
Okay, so thank you very much, guys. You mentioned about an investment, so I would like to talk about it a bit, considering this year the investments slow down, like we have seen some mergers and acquisitions. So from your experience, what's your expectation, especially for the next year? Will the investments increase, or like merger acquisitions will increase? And also, what do you think about those merger and acquisitions? Will they make a monopolization a bad thing for the industry, or they will provide new opportunities for us?
I want to start with the investments, and they are getting slower. You're right about they are getting slower, but I think it's not something bad. It is it is what needs to be done because at coronavirus season, we all know that hyper casual is hyped a lot, but and it became a balloon. Uh, for that time, only two people was being counted as a studio, and they were getting investment. So this is the payback time. Actually, I see this period and the next year like a payback time. So if you are creating good quality products, it doesn't matter if it's hyper casual, hybrid casual, mid core, or hardcore games. If you are creating good quality products, I think for that kind of teams, uh, merge acquisitions or investments will keep going. But if you are just a copycat, or if you're just uh, tracking others and duplicating their stuff, then this kind of studios or teams will face some serious problems, I guess. About the monopolization, I don't think there will be a monopolization with this merge or acquisitions, because when we see there is a merge happening, after 1 or 2 years, some people from that companies are splitting from the company and creating new one with their experiences. So every merge or acquisition is giving birth to another company, actually, after after some time. So I don't think there will be a monopolization. I think they will just cause people to get more experience, and then there will be new companies.
Okay, so you think it's going to be much more fruitful, and
Yeah.
we will have different opportunities after the such investments and acquisitions and mergers. Okay, Gökberk, what's your opinion about it?
My opinion about both mergers and acquisitions is a bit different. I will try to give more a perspective from ad networks, because what we're seeing is we see this both on gaming side within the gaming companies. A lot of studios are being acquired by like bigger ones, or like to with agreements to publish their games and so on. So they are kind of bound to each other. On the ad network side as well, what we are seeing over the last couple of years, there have been huge changes. There was like also some drama between some companies about who is acquiring who and so on. So a very fruitful season overall, very chaotic as well. What we have seen is like every big company now, they would like to build their own ecosystem. Where will they have full funnel access to all UA like digital advertising funnel, so that they can provide end-to-end service, which will kind of keep all the investment within itself, within the whole digital advertising ecosystem. So this is what everyone is trying to do. What we've seen with like Unity, Iron Source, Applovin, they're trying to like get the like acquire other big companies and implement it into their system, and to grow more and have more reach, have more partners, have more scale, and try to dominate the whole industry. This is like a huge trend over maybe even 2 3 years. We saw this with Digital Turbine. We saw this with Applovin, Unity. Everyone is trying to do that. Why they are trying to do that? Again, to provide end-to-end solutions to their partners. The thing is, in an overall ecosystem like this, there's always the changes within the industries that they're affecting, such as gaming or it could be non-gaming branding activity. There will be always changes. What we have seen after post-pandemic economic downturn, and now we have a recession, and overall all the shares are going down. And in these situations, there's always a lot of opportunities for other up and coming companies to show a different side of things, a different quality of service, a different kind of a breakthrough item or object, whatever product. Uh, you'll be able to do that. This is what we are trying to do at adjoe, for example. We are trying to create our own products and be disruptive in the industry, but like different approaches to how both monetization can be done, how the user acquisition can be done. So there are always opportunities. Of course, what we have seen is, I wouldn't say there is only one company that is dominant. There have always been walled gardens like Google, Facebook most of the time, but there were also, it didn't kind of protect the other companies to grow since the start of whole mobile ecosystem. They also grew to a very significant point already. So it doesn't mean that this like monopoly or monopolistic competition is necessarily bad for the whole industry, but there will be always opportunities going forward because the times are changing and you need to adapt. And with the companies that are getting even bigger all the time, adaptability can be dissolved a bit. It might be harder to adapt to everything pretty significantly. So we will see, but I would say going forward, there will be very interesting updates and news about how this will shape up. But again, the significant thing is the whole economic downturn and the old like this big companies can get very hard to manage over time, as we're seeing in the industry, a lot of layoffs and uh, companies kind of try to scale down to be more profitable and so on. So I would say there will be still some players that will be up and coming and disturb the whole ecosystem.
Thank you very much, especially for the examples. Ashish, what do you think about it?
I don't think there's anything left to speak now. I think Ali and Gopal have really covered everything. But again, yeah, from my point of view, like individual point of view, I would say, I think merger and acquisition is like a double-edged sword. It could lead either way. Now, on the other hand, we have some multiple giants coming up together. That would result in more efficient, more talent to come together at one umbrella, and that could also lead to reduced prices for the consumers directly. However, as I said, it's a double-edged sword. It could turn into a monopoly, and people would probably end up paying a high price for that, for the same services for which they were not paying anything at all before. So yeah, considering both those factors, I think the local government as well as I would say the gaming authorities, the government has to regulate these mergers and acquisitions to make sure that it doesn't go either way. Of course, revenue is one of the most important part for each and every company. That is where the line ends. That's where every company wants. So it shouldn't mean that the industry should probably go into recession and losing jobs for millions of people. So yeah, as I said, double-edged sword. Let's see how it works out, and 2023 will definitely see something good happening. So yeah, that's
Thank you very
my
much.
point.
Thank you. Speaking of monopolization, I heard the news about new European Union compliance about mobile stores, and Apple will allow different stores on iOS for the upcoming years. Have you heard anything about it? I would like to know. And also, do you expect anything radical like the IDFA change of Apple or like the new ad changes of Google Play Store, which is a bit chaotic, especially because it looks like their own employees like when you send an application for review, like sometimes you receive interesting review results. So let's talk something about it. And Ashish, please continue.
Sure. So these are two different giants you're talking about, Apple and Google. They are everywhere, and without them, there's probably nothing. But yeah, it's really difficult to predict with certainty like what changes occur in the digital advertising. We're talking about future. There's no certainty to it. But if we have to really predict into it, it's what it will be hard. Like if I come from a developer perspective of view, that there will be certain restrictions where they will have to make changes. They will have to adapt to the regulations for Apple as well as for Google, and it's possible they may continue to do that so in the future as well. So that is one of the important aspect, I believe, which developers as well as publishers also they need to keep an eye and adapt to the upcoming regulations. Of course, you could fight back, as I said in the previous question, as I said, as of now, there are no certain giants who could really challenge those regulations and make them, change the regulations according to them. So yeah, as I said, for the merger and acquisition, if there is a couple of giants, three or giants company which are working together, probably Apple and Google will probably make changes. As of now, what we see, even for India market, if I talk about, we see a lot of MSME, medium and small sized publishers and developers as well, for which it's really hard to adapt to the new technology every time Apple and Google are going to change their regulations. So yeah, I hope they, keep those, Apple and Google keep those things in mind and make it feasible for people to develop games, publish games, as well as for the consumers to, play the games at the end of the day. That's the whole point. So yeah, that's my, takeaway on this.
Yeah, I agree with you. There has to be some kind of balance between the users and also the developers
Absolutely.
or the app site. And Gökberk, what's your thinking about it?
Yeah, from ad network side, it is also a big challenge, obviously, considering the position that ad networks are based in, because they're bound by both Google Play Store or Apple like iOS Store, and you need to kind of take these challenges head on and try to come up with like significant solutions in order to be still like still deliver good results to the partners that you're working with, while handling all the changes and adapting your product to it. So there is, for this part, I think there are two, both Apple and Google are very totally different. They have very totally different approaches. Apple's approach was like much straight on. After iOS 14, we saw a super strict and sudden change in, like, it was around April 2020. I think now it's nearly coming to like 2 years and so on, which is crazy. Um, what we have seen, it was a huge panic in the whole market, and all the MMPs, all the ad networks, they were trying to adjust to something they have no idea about. Okay, how are we going to track the prospects? How are we going to track the events happening? How are we going to target the users? That we were able to deliver good results by pushing higher CPMs, higher CPIs from them, which was more profitable in the end for ad networks, because they were able to target much more significantly on iOS. And after this change, what the world has changed into is, now you're very limited. You have very limited capability with like predictive models or like SKAd network. You need to use Apple's framework in order to kind of track everything in the whole ecosystem. It got more complex, and with every iOS update, it gets more complex on Apple side, which is kind of now very much more harder to penetrate into and get into and try to do something very significant. And the products are kind of coming on level in terms of like creativity overall. In this case, for example, on Apple, like on iOS, it's always there are still things that you can be significant with. For example, for gaming publishers with creatives, how you're taking the creative approach. Ashish knows much better about how can this affect the overall whole story. Uh, meanwhile, meanwhile, on the Google side, what we're seeing Google is, Google always hints about, okay, we will limit privacy. We will put more privacy regulations. It has to be more safer. But their whole approach is kind of either being postponed or being applied very gradually. After OS 12, Google have implemented the option to kind of remove your Google GAID, which is Google identifier. You can remove this to be able to, if you don't want to be tracked, which is kind of effects, but it's still not as big of an effect that the Apple's regulation changes had on the whole industry. And I would say overall timelines that they're providing are like would be much more easier to be adaptable for the whole ad networks. So which is kind of allows the ad networks to be able to come up with like more more concrete solutions to the changes. With, like, I would say, with Google's new privacy sandbox, there will be limitations, but it will not be as steep regulations as Apple has. After Apple's change, for example, Meta lost huge market value because of their ad business damage, not being able to target as effectively as possible. But with Google, I would say I wouldn't expect as much radical change over this year as well. There might be like small changes time to time applied, but it will be pretty much possibly be more gradual in this case.
Exactly. Like since we are users ourselves, privacy is really important. But sometimes it looks like some kind of ad wars between those platforms, and like we got crushed under it. Ali, what's your experience about this subject?
Actually, Apple's letting another app markets to be able to use on Apple devices is not a problem of developers, so we don't really care about it. Actually. But if I want to thank it as a user, actually, it will be fine for the users because there can be yes, the limitations of Apple is to save the users, but that limitations also become some serious problems sometimes. So maybe this new marketplaces on Apple devices can be a free place to move for users, and also for the maybe it can make us to test our games easier on Apple devices because, as you all know, testing your product on Apple devices is also a problem for developers too. But for the changes on IDFA or Google Ad regulations, uh, as Gökberk mentioned, yes, Google is coming coming with small and slow steps if we compare it with Apple. But after Apple's IDFA change, uh, you know, so many news they were expecting the user who will let their information to be tracked. It was the guesses was around 5%, but right now it it go up like 30% or something. So people, I think users are going to understand that they need to sell their data to be able to use free applications. So I think users will face this truth, this sad truth, uh, sooner or later. I don't know when, but users will face it. And after that, I don't think there will be any problems for our perspective about IDFA or Google's ad. But before they face the truth, we will have some some pain, I guess.
Thank you very much for your comments. Yes, you are right. The new changes made user acquisition much more harder. Like CPI is almost doubled on the platforms, and which caused some genres like hyper casual, which relies on very small margins to operate, and that's kind of made a problem for the genre. And what do you think next year about hyper casual? What's your expectation? Is it going to be settled or like maybe slow down more?
Am I following?
Yeah,
Okay.
you please.
For 2023, for hyper casual genre, I think it will get smaller, because as you mentioned, they were living with this tracked data advertisement, and CPIs are doubled and keep getting high. They didn't stop already. They keep getting going high. So this will I think this will lead the developers to add in-app purchases more to change their source of income. So my perspective for 2023 for hyper casual market is it will get smaller, and hyper casual studios will be looking for new ways to earn from players. But when they made these changes, games will become hybrid casual. I think this is the problem of hyper casual market right now, because
Okay.
games are so basic. So for these basic games, you are not allowed to add so many in-app purchases. When you make the content much more complex, it becomes hybrid casual or mid-core game. So uh, this problem will cause hyper casual market get smaller for the next year, I guess.
Okay, thank you very much. Gökberk, what do you think about it? Do you have any data on your hands?
I wouldn't say like I have like concrete data, but I agree with most of Muhammad Ali's points. But actually, like before, when I saw the first questions first, I was thinking actually very similarly in terms of like the trend towards hybrid casual, which we are seeing in the market right now. Because as he said, it is very important for them to drive, like, and Ashish said, revenue is the end goal. You need to get the revenue somehow, either through in-app ads. If it doesn't work, you need to kind of look for other ways, because if the CPIs are super high, which means the amount of revenue you need to get, the ROI you need to get from each user should on average like overcome the CPI, so that you can be profitable in general. Like this is, as its most basic sense, this is what has to happen. That's why we're seeing a trend towards hyper casual. We're seeing hyper casuals not only working like only one with like tap mechanic. Now it's also working with like a lot of like level development. You're unlocking new tools and so on. Like, and the overall possibilities within the genre also expanded a lot, so that it is not like as hyper casual as it was before. Another thing is, over the whole pandemic era, when hyper casual was booming, and it started booming even before that. What we've seen is there were like few games with like, when you just create a new game and leave it on the market, you could get like much higher rankings easier. And the thing is, as this was the case, there was a lot of new players, a lot of new companies joined the field and try to exploit it with like quick games, and just develop it quickly, like and then leave it in the market and try to push it for top charts. But as the competition increased, what we're seeing is, in overall sense, the market is getting more mature for hyper casual. Even though the number of games on the market increased significantly, the number of installs and the demand for hyper casual games is increased, but not as much as the number of new games, which means the competition has increased very significantly overall in the market, and which also makes this scaling of the games is like now much more harder, and you need to overcome a lot of more competitors in order to get the attention of one user and stick them to the game. And another thing is the game mechanics, as they are developing through hybrid casual, it is also kind of gets more costly to, maybe Muhammad Ali will think it has a different opinion, but it is generally will get more costly to develop these kind of games, because developing a mid-core game might even take take years, with all the development of assets, or all the mechanics that needs to be implemented, which then it wouldn't be as easy money as it was before, in terms of like development of the game, at its basic sense. Like this is what I'm thinking about the situation, and what will happen in the next year. I would say hyper casual would definitely stay, but as it is matured, I wouldn't expect like a more significant growth, but it will be, there is also the inflation of the competitor players. I would say they will look for different ways, either to hybrid casual or developing mid core. So maybe the competition will be a bit lesser over time because it is not as profitable as before. And just like with the market adjustment, I would say the scale would be pretty much similar going forward, unless some dramatic world event happens as well, like a COVID pandemic. This is what I can say.
Okay, thank you very much. So you expect the competition to get higher, and like LTV is much more important than CPI. Like the content of the game, the depth, the meta is really important if you want to be successful. And also in-app purchase is needed, as far as I can say. And Ashish, what's your opinion about it?
I yeah completely agree with Ali and Gökberk about the points they have kept up. It's really hard to, if I have to say just for hyper casual, I would say for that matter, any game genre is not really sticking by. Everyone is making changes. Every game genre is changing according to the time, to the technology. Uh, 5 years before, I would say if I play an action game such as Call of Duty or maybe PUBG, I would see the graphics are a little low and it's lagging and everything. But today, if I play, they are much better in terms of their graphics and their gameplay. It's more smoother, and of course, they're, and considering the huge success of Call of Duty Mobile, I believe they're also launching Warzone. So I see there's the progression that every game genre has to adapt according to the time. Now, hyper casual, what we did notice, COVID really did play an important part, in order for that sudden boost of hyper casual, because mostly people were at home, and since there is no certain age limit to it, like from kids to middle age and as well as old age people, they were all easily able to play the game. There's not much really required as in terms of computer setup or PC setup or something, a high end device. Not all is required. Just a very simple gameplay with high replay value, as well as the in-app purchases. Yes, they were there as well. But as I said, like any game genre, I would say hyper casual would also have to make changes and stick to the new, how to make it more and more attractive to the users. Current database is obviously, the current user database is obviously shifting, because if I look at the technology right now, the virtual and augmented reality are playing more important part. Like people are using the virtual headset. Those. I haven't tried it, but I've seen my friends trying it, and they really like it. So I really probably have to pay attention to it also. The metaverse is also coming in play. So there are very new things coming up, and hyper casual being a very simplistic gameplay and everything. Now that we have access to so many games, and there is no limited internet usage by 5G coming into the picture, and better phone devices, better smartphone devices, it ever even at a lower prices. Sorry. So we are not really targeting a T1 market. We are also looking at exploring the T2 and T3 market, where the internet was a challenge at times. There was the phone devices were a challenge, but that is no longer a problem. Now everyone who has a smartphone device can easily download an hyper casual game and can easily play it. From social Peter point of view, also what we noticed, that hyper casual was in such a demand that we had to add a specific category under a game genre for hyper casual, because people were asking, we want to know more about hyper casual. What are the kind of games the ad creatives are posting? So we added a specific, which probably have never been done before, honestly. So we had an action genre, casual genre, and some others, RPG and everything. So we had to add, our IT team were sat down and added the hyper casual as well. So yeah, it was a sudden boost, but as Ali also said, there's going to be a downfall, a downturn, I would say, not a downfall. The number of users, current database would probably shift to a better, more, which provide more, value to the game, in terms of playing. Now, people are no longer looking for that sudden burst of energy, and they want to play strapped down for 4 3 4 hours and play the game. There's no problem with that. So yeah, so that's my point. So as with every game genre, hyper casual will have to make any changes, but considering how simple they are, I don't see you know they making huge changes to it would result in anything better. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Thank you very much for the comments. So, as far as I understand, all genres are affected from the changes. And so, what do you think about the comparison between social ad networks and mobile ad networks? Because recently, like the results are not very good on the social side, and most of the games usually scale with the search ads or like the other mobile ad networks. Do you have any like research about it or any data on your hands?
Yeah. So obviously, from my point of view, like from my as social, Peter point of view, what we really did that we understood that the USP for our company and our dashboard and our big data is going to be the ad creatives. Now, ad creatives are playing a really important part in parts of the global parts of the countries, or I would say globally, wherein people were not very much used to a lot of other social networking platforms. So Facebook and Google as the meta platforms and Google as being the topmost two giants for ad networking. TikTok also came into the picture, and it really swept away a lot of marketing from these two giants, which has to be really be considered. But also there are some other social networking platforms such as let's say Reddit, Twitter. We have seen the news what is happening on Twitter. So a lot of people have increased. The user database has changed, and they're trying to earn more and more and more money by advertising. And now when I open Twitter, I see a lot many more ads, as compared to where I used to open before. So obviously, the surge of the user database will definitely decide for the ad networking side, and I would say it's a good thing, because that way we'd probably have a lower CPI because of the competition between all these three or maybe some other networks also. I'm sorry. And for social media, as I said, we were not just sticking to Facebook and Google because we understand that if a developer or publisher really wants to push their game to a certain corner of the market where people are not really paying attention. Sorry. Uh, like Reddit, we have access to Reddit, we have Tapjoy, we have Vungle, we have App Loving, Unity, everything all mixed in together to serve the customer. Because you could probably publish your ad creative on Facebook or Google, but at the same time, those similar kind of ad creatives would be seen by a lot of people. So for you to stand out, you have to probably invest a lot into your marketing tactics. You have to put in lot more work into your ad creatives to stand out, between that sea of ads. Uh, so those are one of the things. And being from the gaming industry, I think ad creatives plays a very important part because if I have to download a different application such as let's say Uber or Amazon, I have one purpose to download that particular application, that Amazon for shopping, Uber for my travel. But for gaming, ad creators plays an important part. When people are attracted to it, when they play, when they see the gameplay, when they see how good it looks, then they play. And of course, there's new format coming up. Not new, I would say. Playable ad creatives are there in the picture when people can actually play the game and then decide to download. I never used to pay attention to the ad creators, me personally, on my mobile. But when I saw the playable ads, like I think this is something attractive. I could really play the game. They would probably show you some low level, the character cannot clear the level, but then you play that you're able to do it. So obviously that pushes the customer to understand, oh yeah, I should be able to play it. So yeah, I can understand the creativity part and everything, but yeah, Facebook and TikTok and Google ads and everything, I do believe there should be more and more competition for which is going to be good for developers and publisher side as well as for the user because it would directly impact the pricing for any game or any in-app purchases as well for us. So yeah, that's my take. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So you mentioned about the creatives, which is always important, but next year it's going to be much more important because like the competition is really high and also playable creatives are in action. And as far as I know, it could boost up to 30% or something if you use them. But of course, it comes with its cost and its like issues with it. And Gökberk, what's on your front?
From my front, uh, the main question that I would have in mind first is, of course, I totally agree with the part that creatives on like both social networks and ad networks uh, generally tend to perform a bit different, of course, because of the user base. My question in mind is, okay, there's like a performance drop off on social networks, but like mobile ad networks are still strong. We need to focus on one thing first: who am I reaching as a gaming company by using these channels? This is the main thing. So who am I reaching while using TikTok for my user acquisition, through Facebook or through mobile networks? The main difference here is, if what you're looking for is scale, social networks will be delivering that, because there is like a much more number of daily active users that you can reach from these big apps. If you can be competitive with your CPI CPM, you will be able to show to much more people than any other thing. Basically, this is the main promise. This is the main premise of these channels and environments. On mobile networks, what you can get is, you're actually getting already gaming users, because mostly what you're doing is advertising on other gaming publishers, and showing your game on these platforms. With what you can make a difference is, of course, with a decent creative strategy, you can even drive much more out of that. I would think also, what one of the reasons that we're seeing a drop in social networks is because of now the targeting capabilities are getting much more limited, and the CPIs are more increasing. Even driving scale is much more costly now for most of the gaming publishers. This is one thing. And like generally right now, before you could just select like age, gender, which audience you want, and you would get it. Now it doesn't really work like that exactly, which kind of creates a problem where in the case where you're getting users, but they're not profitable anymore for you. So that's why there is like a huge shift in terms of like what we have seen from our partners and partnerships that we're in. A lot of companies now mainly focus on profitability, and they exactly know what they want now. I would say, with all the goals, with what they need to have after 30 days, after 60 days, after 90 days, after acquiring a user. This is now much more significant. All the goals are defined. They know what kind of audience, what kind of user behavior they're looking. And this is kind of where the industry is going, combining with the economic downturn over this year. So next year, I would expect, of course, TikTok, Facebook, all the social networks will be still very viable. I would say for gaming publisher also to test creatives, because you can then test the creatives on a much bigger scale and so on. But also, mobile ad networks will continue to get a huge chunk of the ecosystem, due to possibilities of actually driving significant performance on a regular basis, because what you're getting is already mobile gaming users.
Thank you very much for the comments. Ali, how are things on your side?
In our side, competition is something good for us because it lowers the cost for developers and studios. Uh, but if I focus on the question about Facebook, TikTok, and ad networks, uh, I think with the regulations of Apple and Google, IDFA, and Google's ad regulations, Facebook and TikTok ad network will keep growing because we will keep growing and keep their importance because uh, other ad networks they mostly need to allow the customers to share their information to target the customer group, but social media has an advantage on this. They already have our information. We already gave them our information when we sign up for them. They also have limited access for our behavior. For example, when I'm in Instagram, when I scroll down, they know exactly how many seconds I'm looking for with which picture or what I'm searching. They don't need to ask me any permission to have this data, and they are combining this data with my identity. So with with current regulations, and we are expecting it to grow for more privacy. With these regulations, I think social media ads will keep their importance. Also, as Gökberk said, it's really easy and reliable to test your creatives on social media because there is a huge target group there, and you can get the feedback instantly. Those are what we see when we look from our side.
Thank you very much. So we mentioned a lot about like creatives, creativity, and I want to ask a question. It's very viral at the moment, especially if you track the social platforms like
Yeah.
the generative AI and AI in general about creativity, you know. And what do you think about it? Like generative AI or AI in general will be used in gaming next year or will be used ever? What do you think, Ali?
I think they can be used right now. When ChatGPT is on trends, I asked him, not him. I'm sorry. It feels like there's a person in front of me. I first I asked AI to give me some codes. I just define him a shooter game with some specifications, and he gave me shooting system, health system, and some other systems, and he also introduced me how will I connect this in Unity. So I don't even need to know how to use Unity to make a shooter game if I have this AI. It it feels like AI is threatening us. He's shaking our thrones. Yeah, it feels like that. But on the other hand, this will push people to create much more quality products, which AI cannot do right now. At least right now, I'm sure they will be able to do it in the future, but right now they can do the basics. So if we just leave the basics on AI, I think this will push the quality up. So this is why I see AI in general or in generative ways. I think it's necessary and it's something we need to start using immediately. But in the art side, there are so many protests going on ArtStation, LinkedIn. I think everybody is see the posts and what's going on. For the art, yeah, I believe that there should be a limitation because uh, creating an art, it doesn't matter if it's for game or a movie or whatever. Creating something with this inspiration and artistic feelings, that their value should be paid. This is what I think and this is what I believe. But for coding and other stuff, I think we should be using AI right now.
Okay, thank you very much for the comments. Gökberk, what's your opinion about those generative AI, and also do you use like AI systems in adjoe about your processes maybe, or do you plan to use them next year?
I mean, overall knowledge I have about generative AI is what I saw from like social media in general. Not specifically my domain, but like what I'm thinking about the possibilities that it actually brings for like a game development, especially on like visual side. As Muhammed Ali said, I didn't know that. For example, I'm very happy to learn something like totally new. I will research about it. I'll keep that in mind. But for example, visual new like generative AI usage might be also bring more resources to develop other parts of the game and like kind of limit the amount of resources you need to put into developing a game, so that kind of it takes over a part of it in a way, so that kind like it gives more flexibility in terms of like generating the overall product. On ad network side, from our most of the ad networks have been using AI, of course, in a much more simplified way through like algorithms, and like how the bidding is being applied to the inventory you're targeting, and so on. Especially like after the growth of programmatic, this is what we have seen now. Most of the ad networks or the demand side platforms, they work on like specific the main selling point, the unique selling point is how their algorithm works and what they can drive with it and what is required with it, basically. Now the competition is actually between the AIs, and what we are trying to do between these companies uh, is to kind of show which one's algorithm, which one's AI is working the best. This is literally, sometimes it feels like the world is going into this way. Of course, for us, we can do optimizations, we can do user acquisition totally manually, either or also based on a learning process, and learning about like users behaviors and then targeting them, which brings more value. But of course, it's most of the time depends on the data that you're gathering, and how significant is your data, because over time there are so many variables that you cannot always take into account doing manually. So this is why like all the ad networks kind of always keep improving their algorithm like AI, in order to be able to comfort all the changes this time brings. If you're saying like it doesn't always about how you're bidding, there might be a lot of different changes which should be incorporated into the AI systems as well on that network side.
Thank you very much. So you think AI is good in terms of like ads and
For me,
monetization?
I would say it is necessary. Like there is no other way. Like it's very hard to kind of break through the market now. Okay, I'm doing everything manual, no AI, no learning, and I would say that will be struggling in the market.
All right, Ashish, what's your opinion?
Yeah, as I said, I would say it is necessary, but it's the necessary evil right now. Okay, so I remember, I wouldn't say too much about the topic, but I remember I watched a particular ad. I don't remember for which it was, for which product the ad creative was. It was on YouTube, and it's an old ad. So there's a guy who wakes up in a house. He has controlled voice controlled his entire house, like turn on the shower, turn on this, make breakfast, call this, call that, and even his lock systems are voice controlled. Now that very same day, it's raining. He comes back home. The problem was that he went to a dentist to take out his tooth, and he couldn't speak. So and he didn't have a key as well along with it. So he was standing outside in the rain, and he could not speak also. So that's kind of sum it up. You don't have to rely too much heavily on AI, but certainly as go would say that it is very necessary because it has much more precise results and delivery. Just like media buying earlier, it used to happen manually. Now it's more like AI based, but again, you have to have some sort of control to it. And we have all seen the Matrix, so we know what would happen if AI would take over. So that's one thing. I would really focus on that. As long as we can control it, AI is an amazing tool. It can be used for game design. It could be used to design game levels, NPC characters, and different level of games, because it would understand. It would it basically works on the data we provide the AI. Like, just for an example, I was using Chat GPT, a couple of days ago, and even for me who do not understand quantum physics, or it was able to make me understand chat from Chat GPT's. It's an amazing tool. I asked them the question that how can you define quantum physics in a very simple terms for me, and I was able to understand some of it. Of course, if I would have paid more attention to, probably I would be able to grasp the overall idea much more better. So yes, the results are better. It's more precise. They are more profit driven, I would say. Obviously, it reduces the manual labor, which is great. And social Peta is, of course, it's a big data tool, and we play with the big data and everything. And we somehow are directly also impacting the marketing team as well, wherein for an art creative part or for a creative part, it's a very you know difficult thing to make an art creative. How it will impact the market, how will it impact the user, how will the end user behave to it. So we try and tell them that with the big data tool, you will be able to have more precise information on what people really react to, like what kind of color patterns, what kind of palettes you should use, what kind of characters you should use. uh, you know we have seen ads going off through the roof for about, it has just launched a day ago, posted on YouTube or some other platform, and it has about 8 millions of impressions. So you could understand that 8 million is a big number in one day. So people are really wanted to understand like what is really happening. Like they want to understand. So yeah, and I believe it was an AI generated ad creative. So yeah, that's the result right in front of you. And AI is just not probably stick to gaming industry. I think we have all seen industries, manufacturing, parts, focusing towards automation, towards artificial intelligence to reduce the manual intervention. And it does, as Ali also said, we should have some control. Creative is a human part. We had Picasso, we had Vincent van Gogh before, and it cannot be repeated again. So that's my takeaway from this.
Thank you very much. I think we may need some new regulations about those
Absolutely.
generative AI, and it's definitely going to be used in the gaming industry, not just only for the user acquisition monetization, but also for designing games, coding games, or making game art. But we should be careful using it, and because it's really important to be authentic in gaming. And
Yeah.
also, it's definitely going to be very important in terms of partnerships. Like if your partner uses AI in their processes, I think it may be a plus for those uh, agreements or partnerships. And what's your opinion about it, Ashish? Do you think it's going to be a deal breaker for the partnerships next year, or like it's not going to be very significant uh, now?
So I completely believe in partnership, and that is one thing any industry should really focus on, except politics maybe. But other industries such as gaming industry, you could take any industry, and partnership always profit each other. It profits the entire, the community. And gaming community, is something which people really follow with their passion. It's not a business of generating revenue by selling any specific, product, which, it's something which soothes your mind, something you want to get on after work and play a little game, with your friends, and I remember like during the COVID time, that was the only thing which was keep for me specifically, it was keeping me going. Like I wouldn't be able to go to other places, gym, malls or movies. I would hop in the war zone, with boys and play the game. That was one way we were able to connect humanly with each other. So yeah, partnerships are one of the most important thing. I think should more and more companies come together, and from social media point of view, also as I said, it will definitely create a spark. No one in the industry at this point of time, and it's a very bold statement, but I would should be able to say it, that social media is focusing on the USP, which is the ad creative part, which is the end result. Because if we look at the back, look in the future, look in the past, sorry, earlier it was the print media. Like we had to go to the people to show their ad creatives, Or then we moved to billboards, wherein people would travel and they would see those billboards marketings. Then we moved to TV, app creators. People would watch it and everything. Now imagine there's a device like, I remember Nikola Tesla, obviously, he said that in the past that, we would have some sort of device through which we can talk to each other and it will be completely wireless. And that is happening right now. And we can understand as the competition is growing between Google and Android, we see more and more phone devices coming up. So smartphone is a device wherein you can post your ad creatives. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to spend too much money on the physical part of it. But yes, there is money involved, and you have to be like really careful and intelligent in how you invest into it. But for an average user, like globally, the data was that they spend at least 3 to 4 hours of their time of their day on mobile phone. So yeah, that's my takeaway.
Thank you very much, Gökberk. How about your partnership since you are the account manager? I think you have some important data about it. Your sound is off.
I think we're out of time, by the way.
Yeah,
Is
we're
there-
out of
Okay,
time.
okay. Yes,
I
we are
will, I
out
will,
of
I will
time.
talk for like half an hour more, but
Yes, okay. I will ask in private chat about it. Thank you very much for your comments. And since we are out of time, see you next time, guys.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Hari, Gopal.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.